And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 70. Going to talk about some starting pitchers that have been phenomenal in the K to walk percentage and swinging strike world since July. Talk about some recent news. A call-up just happened right before we started here, so that'll be fun to discuss. Play our weekly game, which we're kind of at a stalemate the last few weeks, and much, much more. You can find me on Twitter at BDNtrick, my co-host on Twitter at Brian BHQ, and the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. Ryan Bloomfield, how are we doing, my friend?
Doing good, but sounding better than you. No offense, but
Yeah, I'm injured, not hurt. I'm injured, not hurt.
We're powering through your first of 3 or 4 podcasts tonight. No, I'm doing great, man. Was on yesterday on the Fantasy Baseball Beat as a guest with Mike Carter and Chris Torres. That was a lot of fun. Check those guys out, and then today just kind of got off work early and walk 9 holes, and that's good for the soul.
Yes, it is
good for the soul. So I am I'm charged up, ready to go, and yeah, doing well, man. How are you? Other than your vocal shortcomings,
other than the sinus throat situation going on here, I am good. Just grinding through the season, trying to avoid as many injuries as possible. I believe we have a draft coming up on Tuesday. Now that I think about it. That'll be fun.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, literally just thought about that right now. We will be drafting our 2 early DC like we did last year. I think the first 7 or 8 rounds on Tuesday night. So we'll have that to talk about next Thursday because that's how we roll. But so that'll be fun. We'll see where Ryan drafts the next up-and-coming pitcher we don't know about yet, 200 picks ahead of time. So that'll be cool. And one thing I'm looking forward to seeing is who's this year's Adolis Garcia that we forget about in the first 7 rounds, and then we kick ourselves for the next 2 months before we start drafting again. That's the one I'm waiting for.
And this is just some context for the listeners who didn't listen last year. This is the second time we're doing this, but in mid-August, 13 other degenerates we get on Zoom, and Rob DiPietro organizes this whole deal. Ryan Roof has this like legendary spreadsheet that we don't even do this on the NFBC site. We just kind of say our picks over Zoom and throw back a few and have some fun. And so we do, I think we're doing like the first 7. I don't even know if we've established that, but last year we did, the first 7 rounds over Zoom. And then I don't know when we finished it, like in November when the actual NFBC site was up. But it's it'll be really fun. Like other than just like doing it for fun. I mean, there is money involved. It's the $150 DC, but it's a cool little thought exercise on like, where's Trey Turner? How far is he going to slip down? And like you said, with Adolis Garcia, who is going to be somebody, since we obviously have no projections for next year, like who's going to be that guy who just everyone forgets about and is the obvious pick in round 8 when we start back up in November.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I remember I text Rob a couple weeks ago. I said, "Hey, any interest in doing that league again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll get it started." Group DM started. I text Ryan. I'm like, "Hey, check your DMs." And I get a middle finger coming back at me because it's like we want to do it, but at the same time, it's like, it is kind of early-ish / dumb at the same time.
I think I speak for the league in that like, yes, I'm in, but like, damn it, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. It give us something to definitely talk about next Thursday and in the coming weeks after the season as we get ramped up and good to go. But real quick, we won't bother you with the full spiel, but FPAS is just around the corner, everybody. So go check out Baseball HQ, sign up there. If you guys want to play golf, come join us for that. But it's an absolute blast. The rooms are going fast, apparently. Signups are obviously still being taken. They're working on the outline and then the program. Maybe Ryan has a few more details, but that's the gist of it.
That's the gist. We've got the speaker list up there and more to add on the HQ site. And I am like I said, I've walked those 9 holes today, so I'm practicing. Chris Clegg was out there today as well. I think he said he tweeted that he shot a 78 with a double, a bogey and bogey to finish it out.
Just a ringer.
We got some competition. I'm gonna have to go back out there and practice a little bit more, defend my title from.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get at it here. This is I need to keep it going because the weird thing is I've actually been playing kind of well the last couple times I've gone out. I'd hate to blow it in Arizona. Let's put it that way. But let's talk some news and notes. Not a ton going on these days, especially on a Thursday where 6 teams played. So most teams, even if there is news, they're not talking about it today. That's part of the conundrum on all this. But some of the main things here: Marcus Stroman, he went to the IL with a hip injury. Now he has a rib cartilage fracture. No timetable for his return. That's one of those that the Cubs need him back, so I can't just say they're going to shut him down. But cartilage, you'd rather have a broken rib probably than cartilage because it just heals at its own pace. Like you just can't do anything. You just can't do anything and see where it goes. So there's that thing. You IL him if you can. You probably hold him if you can. My question to you, Mr. Bloomfield, because I have him in our 2 early DC from last year and other leagues. I started him this week. Javier Assad is back up.
You have him on your teams.
I have him, Adbert Alzolay, and Mickey Moniak in that 2 early one. So yes, this is sometimes things just work out for you. But Javier Assad, he had like glimpses towards the end of last season. That's kind of why I drafted him in some of these DC super late because I didn't think the Cubs pitching staff was worth a darn to start the season. But now he's made a couple starts. Kind of a pitch to contacty kind of guy, but he does have a few strikeouts. What's your thoughts on him? Because by no means am I saying go run out. He's going to light the world on fire, but he might be formidable coming up the next few weeks.
I don't even know about that, man, to be honest. Like, so yes, we do have the back-to-back 3.11 ERAs. Like that's really good in the major league level. But like, yes, pitch to contact, that is definitely part of the package here. He's got like a 7% swinging strike rate, which is truthfully god awful. The control isn't that great. 10% walk rate, does not get ahead in the count, doesn't have like an extreme ground ball tendency or extreme fly ball tendency where he could theoretically outpitch some of these ERA indicators that are really bad. So like I am not rostering Assad. I think I made the pun last year that it's going to be a sad ending if you do that. And
what if
Bubba, I would I'd count your blessings and put
what if I told you his next 2 starts are at Detroit and at Pittsburgh?
So you're rolling with him in the DC, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's on like Donkey Kong. But I will echo your sentiments. A good friend of mine and follower for a lot of my shows for many years. He's in the Discord with me. Dire Work. He's a Cubs guy. He lives like down the street from Wrigley. And we were talking about it for DFS the other night because he was like $6,400. I'm like, hey, let's go. The White Sox suck. Like, this is great. And he said pretty much everything you said right there. He's like, hey, I've watched him every time out. He plays the tightrope game. Like he does the dance, limits the damage. He somehow survives with like a quality start. He's all, none of us know how. None of us know. So it's pretty much what you're saying. He just said it in the layman terms of it all. It's just like we watch it and we don't know. We can't figure it out. And even against the White Sox, like he gave up 2 of the 3 runs in his last inning of work. He almost got through there with like 1 run, like 3 Ks. It's just it's not pretty. I will admit to that.
It sounds like Julio Teheran from like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's pretty fair. Pretty fair. He sounds like let's have some fun. He sounds like Graham Ashcraft.
That's true. That's probably a better comp.
But yet people are picking up Graham Ashcraft, even in Great American Small Park. So just gonna throw that one out there. Times are tough this time of year. Dog days of summer, but I don't blame you if you want to stay far, far away from that. A little bit of news here for the Reds. Speaking of Great American Small Park, Hunter Green will be returning from the IL and starting on Sunday. He looked phenomenal in his last rehab start. Velocity was there, 83 pitches. He's like fully stretched out. Should be ready to rock and roll on Sunday. If you're in weekly leagues, obviously, bummer, but you at least get to watch him and see what happens. And then Nick Lodolo, wanted to mention that he had his first or second rehab start the other day. Looked pretty good, throwing a couple innings. Remember, it was a leg injury, not an arm injury. So as long as he can ramp back up, that's a plus. I think their goal is maybe 2 more rehab starts. They're still shooting for that early September return date. So the only reason I bring it up is we've talked about Lodolos and stashings and all that stuff before, but we actually have something like on the radar now. It's like there where we can work with Lodolo and be like, okay, can I stash him for 2? Because if you want to stash him, it might have been last week, if not this week for sure.
You had to time it, and yeah, it was really hard to time it when you didn't have these details that you just ran through. So like, I mean, to kind of knock out Hunter Green, like there's not really much there. You just you get him right back in your lineup. Like you said, the 80+ pitches in his last rehab start, fantastic. And yes, if Nick Lodolo, now that we do have some clarity on the timeline, is available on your leagues, because we both of us were saying we weren't stashing Nick Lodolo just given what he showed this season, plus the uncertainty of the injury. But yeah, having those 2 guys back, man, I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, so then NL Central is just really interesting. You got the Brewers 2.5 games up. with a fully healthy Brandon Woodruff, a Freddie Peralta, who is absolutely dealing, a bullpen that's great. You've got the Cubs, 2.5 games back of the Brewers, whose offense is on fire. Did just lose Stroman, like you talked about. And then we have the Reds, who are tied with the Cubs, also 2.5 back of the Brewers, getting Lodolo and Greenback. Who are you going with? NL Central champ.
I think I still go Brewers, just with that three-headed monster of Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, plus the back end of that bullpen with Devin Williams. And you don't have to, your home park is not Great American Small Park, where even if you play a great game, you could literally just get high fly ball to oh wait, that's 10 rows deep. That's a shame. That's why I'd personally love to see the Reds find a way in there. That would be you think about all those young players, Ellie, McLean, even Friedel. They'll get Fraley back eventually. Votto on the big stage maybe for one last time. That'd be awesome. Get Hunter Green out of Great American for a game 1 in a pitcher's ballpark. Let's go. That could be fun too.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think it's the Brewers I actually think if the Brewers get in for the same reasons, Bubba, they're scary, man. A 3-game series against Peralta, Burns, Woodruff, and then that back, you said, the back end of the bullpen, Abner Uribe, Payamps, and Devin Williams. Go Brewers as well. Reds, I did not know this, but in doing the show with Mike and Chris yesterday, we looked at recent team trends as part of the episode, and the Reds offense over the last month has been, the 4th worst offense in all of baseball in terms of WRC plus. So it's probably just a slump, but you think Reds, you think elite offense, and yes, they're getting Green Lodolo back. Offense needs to turn it up a notch.
It's been a combination of Fraley gets hurt, so now you lose him to a backup. Senzel is Senzel. Benson's cooled down. As much as fun as Ellie Day the Cruz is to watch, he's a big hole in that lineup. Honestly, I hate to say it, he's either going it's like outhouse or penthouse with him, and that just makes it tough to have consistency, and that's what those kids need. So I think they'll have another good stretch in them. I don't doubt that any bit. And Great American will be rocking. It'll be like Wrigley was the other night when Morel went deep. That was just the coolest thing in the world. That's baseball at its finest, folks. But the Reds will have another run. That's the beauty of it. I just don't know if they have enough in that the starting rotation / bullpen to make it happen. That's their big bugaboo. And you just ask Jeff Erickson. They didn't do that during the trade deadline, and he talks about it every time he can because he's not wrong. That's just the way it is. So we'll see how that goes. But Brew Crew for sure. I could talk about this all day, but I think people probably want fantasy stuff. But we are getting crunch time for playoffs, and the Giants won't be in it, so we're good. We're good with that one. We'll talk about some St. Louis Cardinals news here. Nolan Gorman, he went to the IL. He's been dealing with back injuries for a while. Kind of he got scratched here, scratched there. He got scratched 2 days ago, and then on Wednesday or Thursday morning, he wasn't in the lineup, and they were saying that he can't even bend or twist without pain. So it's way more than a day-to-day thing. So they put him on the IL because they were going to give him an injection into his back, which is a minimum 3 days with nothing. So now you're at 5 days essentially. So they put him on the IL. They want to rest him and hope he's back. But these back injuries, man, we talk about it all the time. And it's a young kid with a back injury. I wouldn't be shocked if this is not a 10-day thing. Let's put it that way.
Could definitely linger. I don't know, I don't drop wise if we're there yet, because it could just be a minimum stint in Gorman. Been pretty damn good in deep leagues. So
and that'll correlate to this next bit of Cardinals news, because on Wednesday, this is big news, because Wednesday, half of my first pitch news and notes was Cardinals injuries, because everybody left the game. It was insane. Tommy Edman left. He played again on Thursday, so that's good. But Lars Nootbaar, he left with an lower abdominal contusion, which I don't know. Is it a bruise? Is he having internal bleeding? I don't know. I thought it was minor. Thursday, the news comes out that Lars Nootbaar went to the ER on Wednesday night to have further testing take place, which makes me wonder, was there a concern for bleeding or something inside there? Nootbaar's going to the IL. That news came out about 30 seconds after the news of Masyn Winn getting called up to the St. Louis Cardinals. Winn can obviously play where Gorman's playing at second base. They could use a shortstop. No doubt about that. Move Edman somewhere else. He adds a ton of pop. This offense needs help in a big way. So this is where it's going to be fun because pocketbooks are shallow right now. Masyn Winn could be an impact guy. We don't know. So I'll let you have the floor on this one. Masyn Winn, you've talked about him for a few weeks ago at least. What's your thoughts on this? Because the news finally broke. And I guess I told you I'd read a tweet. So let me read this real quick before I give it to you. Chris Clegg, amazing guy. We talked about earlier, scratch golfer probably, just doesn't tell us the truth. Has his awesome prospect news and everything. He tweeted out this morning on Thursday morning, there are 45 days left until the end of the regular season. Why does that matter? And Ryan mentioned this on an episode a while back. Teams can call up prospects and will keep them under the 45-day rookie threshold as long as they do not eclipse the 130 at-bats or 50 innings pitched limit. Expect some call-ups over the next few weeks. And why that's important, this isn't even a financial thing. If they start with the team next year as a rookie and they win Rookie of the Year, they get draft picks. That's why this is extra important compared to what it used to be. So, Ryan, after all that, the floor is yours.
I mean, this is what we saw last year this is going to be the new reality, the new timeline, whatever, with the new CBA. This is what we saw last year with Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson when they were both called up right around this time last year, strategically so that they could be rookie eligible the following season. And in Corbin Carroll's case, win Rookie of the Year and give the Diamondbacks some extra picks and incentives and that sort of thing. So we're going to see it. And so I think fantasy takeaway wise, it's so hard to project really anybody over a month and a half of the season that we have left. Nonetheless, a prospect, with the prospect, how much is he going to play? He's going to play every day. Obviously they're not going to play enough to exceed rookie eligibility. We know that. We know there's a cap on the at-bats. And then, of course, what's that adjustment period to Major League Baseball going to be like? So, we don't know. And the reason I say that is, yes, Masyn Winn is super exciting. You look at some of the hard contact that he has made in the upper minors in AAA lately. It's elite. 18 home runs, 17 steals. The K rate's there. Everything looks good at AAA. How's that going to translate to the majors? We don't know. But the other kind of reason, as I think there will be other Masyn Winns. There will be other prospects that get called up. And I think, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. Which one's going to be the best out of them? I don't know. I would just go with your team need, your category need, and playing time. What does that playing time situation look like? I think in Winn's case, playing time's a little sketchy, to be honest. What happens when Nolan Gorman comes back? Does that infield kind of get solidified? We don't know. But yeah, Masyn Winn will be sought after in Fab, and should you blow your load on him? That sounded terrible. No, but if you need that category juice and you need steals and you need some power, it kind of does make sense.
Yeah, because he's going to come right in because Taylor Motter is going to get out of the way for now on that scenario. But it's going to be an interesting weekend because I talked about it with Curlin. With Ozzie Albies going to the IL, we don't even know the severity of his hamstring injury. There's Nicky Lopez out there, but they called up Von Grissom, and they had one game where they had Grissom up, didn't play him. Is it going to be a strictly lefty-righty platoon in that scenario? So then Masyn Winn playing every day becomes better than Von Grissom. This weekend's going to be very interesting to see how these teams use these prospects, our younger players, to see how things pan out before we do the waiver wire on Sunday. But I think the biggest thing you said that really I'm a full support on, just team needs. I tell guys in our Gaining the Edge Discord all the time now, they put a list of rate these 5 players. I'm right now it's the middle of August. You have 6 weeks. Team needs, matchups, stream. That's all you're doing right now. You're not looking to reinvent the wheel. Literally find the best. That's why we play the matchup game on the weekend. Similar concept at least. Literally just look for the best scenario, churn and burn, move on. That's where I'm living right now. Everyone's different though. So last bit of news I have here, Brian Wu of the Seattle Mariners. This is a big one, too, for a couple of reasons, actually. He threw a bullpen session on Thursday. If he bounces back good on Friday, he's going to rejoin the Mariners rotation on Tuesday. Great. Awesome. I dropped him everywhere. He's going to be back. Sweet. But not even that part. The kicker, to me, is the Mariners said it'll be a part of a 6-man rotation. So this kind of makes sense. They have Bryce Miller. They have all these young. They just called up Hancock, even Kirby and Logan Gilbert. Yeah, they're veterans in theory, but they're still young. they're going to make these guys like rest their innings basically. So if you're looking for 2-start guys, not so easy anymore in Seattle.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway is like you probably won't get, you may get like a couple more 2-starts out of somebody in that rotation, but it's really hard. So like you probably lost a start from like Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, Logan Gilbert, which may matter in leagues that are really close. I was a little surprised that the Mariners are doing the 6-man just because like, so those top four, those four guys I just mentioned, I mean, those guys are locked in. They're great. Like, don't mess with that. Kind of thought they'd try and do some kind of like piggyback between Hancock and Wu. Both of those guys, A, they're super young, and B, from a workload standpoint, they're both in uncharted territory. This is kind of a big thing that I kind of harp on is when do we start to get concerned about a shutdown or just they get tired? They're not used to this type of workload. And both Hancock and Wu are definitely, I almost think with Wu, like this forearm thing, kind of just like a phantom IL stint to basically conserve his arm. So why not just kind of, piggyback those two guys, have them go 3 innings at a time, and then you have your 5th spot. But I don't know. I don't run the Mariners. I don't pretend to be as smart as them, but just something that I was a little bit surprised on because I think stretching Hancock and Wu all the way out, I don't know if that's going to end well.
I don't know if it's going to end well. I know they have postseason aspirations. So they probably want them stretched out for the postseason. Who knows? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. I'm 100% with you on that one. So that was my biggest takeaway when I saw that. I'm like, okay, it's cool. Wu's back, but 6-man. I think we're going to see a few more of those. Like there's other teams talking about it. Like, when Nate Eovaldi comes back in Texas, that lines up to be a potential 6-man. There's a handful of teams with young, like the Dodgers wouldn't shock me if they went 6-man here eventually because they have a lot of just questions in that rotation in general. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming up here. Mariner or the Marlins maybe because they brought Yuri back up, but maybe when Edward Cabrera comes off the IL or something, they were going to 6-man it and stretch these dudes out. I'm just throwing ideas out. We don't know anything, but it just makes sense. These teams that brought up young pitchers, how do they deal with this to finish things off? Because I don't think they want to just shut them all down. And that'll make things because they don't have options is the thing. They called all these guys up. These were the September options. Now they're already up. So kind of makes things difficult. All right, Bloom, let's talk about it. Our weekend matchup game. I mentioned earlier on the show, we're kind of at a stalemate these days. So why don't you give us a little recap of what took place this past week?
Yeah, another push. You took hitting Kike Hernandez 6 points over my expert pick.
Impressive week.
Of Bryce Turang. Bryce Turang mustered 1 walk the entire weekend and went 0 for 12. So that was good. On the pitching side, my Chase Silseth beat your Cole Reagans 10-6. Silseth pitched extremely well and continues to look really good down the stretch. Eligibility again for our gamers less than 50% rostered in the 12 teamers, and Silseth I had to check to see if we like roll with him again, but I think he's like 90% now in 12 teamers. So
real quick, I meant to mention, I looked it up when we were talking Lodolo. I know I'm going way back. He's still eligible in 43% of OCs, so that's going to be fun this weekend. So
that's
it's more than I thought.
Yeah.
And you want to see Silseth? I got him right here. Say Sil, type like a genius. He's an 88%. 88%.
Yeah, he was up there. So hope you got him. Hope you got on board. This weekend, let's see, like matchup wise, there is a 4-game set. Yeah, Detroit at
Guardians
Cleveland.
And Detroit got rained out on Thursday. Doubleheader on Friday.
And it's, on the Detroit side, it's kind of a tough matchup. Gavin Williams, Bivey, Logan Allen, Xavier Curry's not that great, but Cleveland bats, I think, are pretty juicy going against Matt Manning, Erod, Alex Fado, and Tarik Skubal. I don't know if any other big ones step out. The Twins get 3 against the Pirates. Any Twins lefties, it could be a good weekend for like Edouard Julien. Matt Wallner, former MVP of Team Bubba.
Yep.
Who you picked last week, who we tied. Houston gets 3 at Seattle. That's one of the better matchups, but I think that's more just Houston's bats are just fantastic. So Cubs get 3 against the Royals. And then you've got the Tankathon, Cardinals and Mets series, which will be just ugliness all around. I think you made a joke about, well, tonight about Jose Quintana and
who
were they playing? Wainwright, right?
It was Waino, and it was like nothing through like 4 or something. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, so
the pitcher's duel between these two is just pure poetic justice, I guess. I don't know, but it's we got other things. We have a full weekend of Great American. Toronto goes into Great American Small Park. And you got the White Sox going into Coors, and honestly, it might be one of the slowest scoring Coors weekends of the season because both these teams are just like scuffling so incredibly bad. It's wild what's going on there with the Rockies these days, even at home. Of course, it's bad, really bad.
Yeah, I think I believe it was Phil Dussault who said something this week about we just ingrained in our heads that at Coors is a bad matchup, and it's like, well, Colorado's lineup really sucks, and so I think they're like league average at Coors
at best. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, actually. But you want to get into the picks for the week now that we've narrowed down the matchups to target? I'll let you have the floor. You can start with bats or pitching, whatever you prefer.
As I bag how bad the Colorado lineup is, let me segue to my pick and take their leadoff hitter, who's like 48 years old.
Yeah.
Will probably get injured or at least sit one of the games. I'm going my man Charlie Blackmon, who I thought would be a first round pick into his late 40s. I love this guy. He's back. I don't know if he's fully healthy, but he's leading off and he gets those 3 at Coors. So Charlie Blackmon, blast from the past, pick for me this week.
Yeah, I'm going Coors as well, but I'm taking a guy that has hope his back can hold up for a few games. The White Sox face 2 righties and a lefty. Yoan Moncada even faces lefties, so I'm going to take my chances there. Not every game, but most games. And over the last 7 games for Moncada, he's hitting .333 with 4 doubles and a homer. He's walked a couple times as well, things that work really well in this game. The Rockies' pitching is horrendous.
Yeah, man. Lambert, Freeland, and Flexen. Oh,
yeah,
my God.
I'll take even if it's just Lambert and Flexen, and he gets Saturday off, I still like my chances in this game because we've seen Moncada when he's actually healthy, he can swing it a little bit. He's actually doing that the last week. We'll see how long that sustains for. I wasn't in love with a lot of hitting options anyways this week, but as you can tell by Blackman's choice as well. But I'm going Yoan Moncada in this one.
Yeah. Pitching side, you want to stay in Coors?
Yeah, let's stay in Coors.
Go for it.
I'm going with the dude that I was actually going to try to use last week. I don't think he would have won it for me, but he wasn't even in the player pool, so I followed our rules and didn't play him yet because at least he wasn't showing up on the OC list. But I'm going with Jesse Schultens of the Chicago White Sox, who since August 1st has made 3 starts in this rotation for the White Sox. He's looked pretty darn impressive. At least 6 innings in each start, 3 earned runs or less in each start, and at least 5 Ks in each start. That's Milwaukee, at Cleveland, and at Texas. He has got the job done against some big-time teams. 17.1% K to walk. We like it a little better, but it's not bad. I like what we're seeing here. And more importantly, as we talked about, Rockies are horrific. I'll take my chances. If he can give me another 5 or 6 for earned runs or less and a K per inning, I'll take my chances on that one because, again, it was between him and Alex Fado for me, and you already poo-pooed Alex Fado, so I'm glad I did that. So I went with Jesse Schultens, who is a guy I think might be worth rostering going forward as well. I think there's a lot to like with him.
I hate my pitcher pick too. So confidence is low here at Bloomfield HQ. I went with Ken Waldichuk because I hate myself.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
All right, but hear me out. Ken Waldichuk, last 4 starts, double-digit whiffs in each of them.
That's what we want.
Struck out 6 at San Francisco, 5 at LA, 7 against Texas. A little bit of a slip-up at the Nats last time out, but he misses bats, controls a little bit of an issue. Like, I would not recommend streaming him if you need wins, of course. Like, that's obvious, but I don't know. Honestly, like, the pitching options this week were just god-awful. Like, maybe I should have gone Assad. Maybe he may not be pitching, but
I don't think he's pitching this weekend. Might be better than Waldichuk. You never know.
He very well could be. And for as much as I bagged Assad at the top of the show, he could actually be better than Waldichuk. So this is where we're at in August.
You know what's funny, by the way? I mentioned on the last show, and you're like, nah, Drew Smiley got the win the other night for Chicago on like Tuesday night.
I noticed
the bullpen and got the win. I was like, yep, there it is.
We go too hard on these guys. Like, honestly, I probably am too hard on these guys because, like, the pitching pool is just so bad. But
that's why I say stuff like that. The pitching is horrific. Every weekend, you go and look at the waiver wire, and it's like, ugh, like we're doing this. We're doing this, really? It's brutal out there. What isn't brutal are bloom boards. Bloom boards are always a great time. Ryan's on top of things already. It's already in the chat. This is beautiful. And this is going to be a fun one. And we got some good interaction on Twitter. We appreciate it. The questions are always welcomed. It's one of our favorite stats. K to walk percentage mixed with swinging strike percentage. So Bloomfield, I'll put the board up. You explain what we're looking at this week.
All right, so this one, just kind of a tried and true and somewhat peek behind the curtain. We were talking a little bit before the show. This one was a little bit dicey this week since I rely on Fangraphs streaming their data to me, and that broke today on Thursday morning with revamped leaderboards, which I'm sure is a great feature and that sort of thing, but broke all my stuff. But we persevered. I figured out another way to get this one out. Since July 1st, I know completely arbitrary, but we're big in this show about just keeping up with trends and trying to uncover guys who are better or not as good recently as we think. 17 starting pitchers with two of our favorite metrics, like you said, Bubba, a 20% strikeout minus walk rate, which is a typical like threshold for a good reliever. But for a starting pitcher, 20% K minus walk is really good. And again, if you're going to use one metric to evaluate pitchers, this is the one. So a 20% K minus walk, and then a 13% swinging strike, which is also well above average for starting pitchers as well. So I just wanted to look at that combination of the two, do it over the last 5 or 6 weeks. He's been trending in the right way. And then last but not least, and again, the YouTube crowd, the video crowd will have this on the screen, but I sorted this list by ERA. So I just always think it's interesting to like pick out these guys based on their skills and then sort that list by ERA, see who's at the top, but like most importantly, see who's at the bottom and kind of buck those trends. So I don't know, pretty good list of dudes here.
Yeah, there is. One of them I actually wrote up for the HQ Daily matchups for Friday, and he's near the top of the list. I want to bring him up. And also, if you're looking at the ERAs, obviously that also counts July 1st on people, not for the full season. Just want to clarify that. But Pablo Lopez is a guy I want to talk about because I like to talk about him for the fact that I just ignored him in draft season because I was worried about the shoulder issues. He gets traded from Miami to Minnesota. He's been great outside of maybe some hiccups during the middle of the season. Since July 1st, 2.36 ERA, like your board says. He's got a 26.5% K to walk, a 15% swinging strike. But I was looking at his last, there's 7 starts since July 1st. He had 1 start where he had 7 runs. Otherwise, it's 5 total earned runs and 6 other starts. He's got at least 5 innings in every start. He's given you at least 7 or more Ks in 6 of 7 starts. He's been one of the more reliable, it feels like quietly discussed players in fantasy right now. So what's your thoughts on Pablo Lopez? Because it's been a very impressive season to me.
No, I think you nailed it. And I always, the Pablo Lopez is always the thing we were both off this guy because he had shoulder problems and shoulder issues. And I was like, I'm not touched. I believe this was entering last season.
Yeah.
And I just like struggle with like, God, now he's healthy, obviously, but not only is he healthy, he's been elite for all the reasons you just mentioned, Bubba. So that was a good takeaway. I believe one of the listener questions or comments, which was a good one, was I think there's 4 twins on this list. So Lopez is one of the 4, of course, with Kenta Maeda, Joe Ryan, and Bailey Ober. So I think we've talked a couple times about the Twins rotation, and they're still going strong despite a couple bad ERAs from some of these guys. But.
And I believe Pablo Lopez was one of those early like pitch mix change guys we saw early on, like increased velocity and stuff like that. Yep. Yeah, so that could definitely be a positive in that direction as well. Yusei Kikuchi, here's another fun one. 2.84 ERA, 20.5% K to walk, 13.1% swinging strike. Rob Silver had a tweet the other day about Robbie Ray's second half the year he broke out almost mirrors Yusei Kikuchi's second half this year. It's pretty scary to see him like the Toronto, like first year in Toronto, they worked with them, and then it's Kikuchi's second year. Don't get me wrong, but he was injured a lot last year as well. It's been special for him. Like he's 3.39 xFIP since July 1st, so it's like not that crazy far off. It's been his first 2 starts in July, he gave up 9 runs. Since then, it's been 5 earned runs over the last 5 starts. He's been very, very effective. So what's your take on Kikuchi here? Because I know there's still a lot of people that do not believe in this guy.
Glad you said that last part, because I'll answer your question in a minute. But got a little story here, Bubba. November 9th, 2022, a Bloomboard comes out at 4:25 p.m. Pacific time. I posted this was all based on the steamer projections that had just come out for the 2023 season. And I took the list of biggest improvers in ERA from 2022 to the projected 2023. Yusei Kikuchi was number 4 on that list. Had a 5.19 ERA last season. Kikuchi projected 3.94. Ooh. Some of the comments to that tweet, will not name names.
Please do.
Kikuchi with a better ERA than Christian Javier, Julio Urias, and Alek Manoah. Laugh emoji.
Ooh, that one's aging well. Can we
my
get
God,
cold takes
my God, they have
here?
Kikuchi with a better ERA than Javier. Where there were a couple others where it's just like Kikuchi better ERA than it. Blue Jays Twitter, I think, saw this. Kikuchi better ERA projected than Alek Manoah. Projections are terrible. That's not an exact quote, but that was some of the feedback to that board. So not to like put anyone on blast or whatever, but it's just like, it's funny how you look back a year ago, or even less than a year ago, 6 months ago or whatever. And like, yeah, these projection systems do get things right from every now and then. So I just thought that was funny. I will probably repost that at the end of the season. I don't like to do that stuff in the middle.
Ryan's much nicer than I, folks. I'd be cold takes
I'm a stand-up.
That thing right there. Like,
Bubba would be all over this.
I'd be stirring that pot so fast.
But whenever I see Kikuchi this year, I just think back to that, and just interesting. Kikuchi himself, it's kind of funny, man. You look at the expected ERA from HQ for Kikuchi each of the last 4 seasons. Check this out: 3.93. 392, 396, and then this year 393. That is like impeccable consistency. Pitching much better of late. Swing strike rate's up, like you mentioned. The big thing with Kikuchi is the walk rate, like 7% walk rate this season. He's been able to keep that swing and miss, but also limit the walks, which has just been his bugaboo forever. And so, like, honestly, yes, a 2.84 ERA for Yusei Kikuchi since July, like that's over his head. But like a mid-3s guy with good amount of Ks on an offense that should produce runs for him. I think a lot of this is legit, man.
Yeah, I'm frustrated because I was all in on him last year, so I wasn't obviously on him this year.
Yeah.
That's one of those that stings because I know we'll talk about it in the off season, but some of the leagues I have such great hitting. I have more leagues with really good hitting and not great pitching, where a guy like Kikuchi over whoever at that round time, probably a game changer type situation. Yeah. Kodai Senga. This is a guy that I've, between DFS and just other things, I've looked at him more than I'd care to this season. Let's put it that way. He's a guy I wasn't on because I didn't know how the Mets were going to utilize him. I didn't know like the exact like innings situation with Kodai. I had a lot of questions, let's put it that way. But since July 1st, 2.85 ERA, 20.7% K to walk, 13.8% swing and strike. I guess the biggest thing is he's really cleaned up the walks. That was an issue early in the season. That's been big for him. And really early in the season, he had massive home road splits. That's kind of gotten to the curbside. So when you're looking at Kodai Senga, what are we seeing with him? Because a pitcher like this obviously deserves much better ADP next season.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, personally just off Senga because I didn't know that much about him coming into the year. And if I don't know much about somebody, I'm probably not going to pick him. The walks is right on, Bubba. Like the swing and miss has always been there, at least this season for Senga. He had a stretch, well, really his first, 6 starts to the season. He He had 3 walks or more in all of those, had a few 5-walk games. Lately, it's been more of like the 1 to 2 walk per game, per start variety. And I think if Kodai Senga can keep it at that level, we're not expecting George Kirby like control here, but if he can just keep a couple walks per game with everything else that Senga brings to the table, I think it'd be great. I think I should, and this is bad podcast prep. I'd like to see what his ball percentage is over this July 1st stretch. I can probably look that up, but just to see, whenever I see an improvement in control, I want to see that ball percentage go down as well to validate it.
It's probably pretty good, I'd imagine. Logan Gilbert is one I want to check out here. 3.08 ERA, 21.6% K to walk, 13.3% swinging strike. He's always a baffling one for me, I guess. Like 4 1/3, 4 earned last time out, and then he dominates 7 shutout with 12 Ks prior to that. It's been like an up and down go for him, much more up than down, obviously. But I guess the consistency is what I'm referring to with Logan Gilbert. What are you seeing when you look at him? Because end of the day, great stats that will help your fantasy team. There's no doubting that. But I know there's just certain times you just look at him and go, man, what are you doing? Like, how are you getting blown up by the Royals? But then you go in and you just dominate, this other team type situation. And it's a really rocky road with Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, it is. And it all depends on the fastball with Logan Gilbert. He's so fastball centric that it really hinges on that. The good thing with Logan Gilbert, so in addition to like the recent skills increase in terms of strikeout minus walk and whiffs, is that fastball velocity. In April, it was below 95. In May, it was 95.5, and now it's up to 96. So like Logan Gilbert's actually throwing harder as the season goes on, which is kind of rare for someone that throws as many innings that Logan Gilbert had this season. Had 186 last year, 142 this year. So I think like I don't know, in Roto and even any season long, you just put up with the peaks and valleys, and you just trust that at the end of the year the production is going to be there. Gilbert has shown us that it will be there, and with the recent like skill improvements, that only bolsters that case. And like honestly, no pitcher's safe from injury, but like if I had to bet on someone throwing 190 innings next season, like Logan Gilbert would be at or near the top of that list. And that's plenty valuable given we're just talking about having to find replacement starting pitching.
Yep, that's a great point in the innings pitch situation there. I want to bring up his teammate, George Kirby, who you mentioned a little bit ago. 2.84 ERA, 23.3% K to walk, 13.2% swinging strike. He's a guy that I always like incorporate. Like Gilbert's your kind of like your I guess your Hyde, your Jekyll to your Hyde when it comes to Kirby. Kirby's just kind of like a pitcher where Gilbert's out there flamethrowing it type scenario. But the strikeouts have really picked up for Kirby since July. Basically, it's kind of been a big renaissance for him. I would say he's been outstanding outside of a couple starts in this month. So, what are you seeing when you look at George Kirby, maybe compared to like a Logan Gilbert?
This one's exciting for me. So I did a deep dive for HQ about a month ago on George Kirby. And like the dude's a unicorn, man. He just does not walk anybody. He has one of the best walk rates, not of just this season. He has the best walk rate and ball percentage of any starting pitcher, but like of the last like 15 years. He's that good with the walks. The issue with George Kirby has been the strikeouts. Like the strikeouts have not been there. Strikeouts have been there lately. And so you look a little bit deeper, the whiffs have been there to support those strikeouts with the 13% swinging strike. Look at the pitch mix. George Kirby started throwing a splitter in June, like 5% of the time. And he's talked about this, wanting to find an out pitch, a strikeout pitch. He's now throwing that split finger 10% of the time and fading his sinker, which he's now used to throw like 25% of the time. And that's now down to 10% in a couple of August starts. So like this new pitch mix, Kirby's able to hold the elite control, but also miss some bats with that splitter. This is like really exciting because I think if George Kirby can even have like a league average or slightly better than league average strikeout rate, I think this is like a 4th, 5th round pick next season because the whip is just going to be like Kyle Hendricks-esque, peak Kyle Hendricks. But then you throw the strikeouts on top of that. I'm going to be, if this holds, I'm going to be really high on George Kirby next year.
Can't wait to see where Ryan takes George Kirby next Tuesday night.
We'll probably take him on Thursday. Damn it.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun there. Let's go kind of farther down the list of some of the guys with the high ERAs in this scenario. And let's talk Bailey Ober. 4.09 ERA, 21.4% K to walk, 15.6% swing and strike. I would have done Joe Ryan, but he's on the IL, and we talked about him plenty about his home run propensities catching up with him. But Bailey Ober, the ERA, obviously not great. The xFIP's 4.08, so it's pretty much saying, yeah, he's not fooling anybody. But the strikeouts are there. He's getting you about 5 innings a start. It's like it's not pretty, but he's grinding through it. So what's your thoughts on Bailey Ober here?
Someone who was like pretty lucky. He's an extreme fly ball guy, and I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, but like you live by the fly ball, you die by it. And because obviously fly balls are not home runs, probably going to be outs, and you're good. The home runs have caught up to Bailey Ober. Like that homer to fly ball rate has gone back from very fortunate to more like league average. So there's that. There's also just like going forward, this is another guy in Ober who has had injury problems, like kind of like went off the map last year and didn't pitch very much. He only had, I think, 70 innings last season, only threw like 110 in 2021. Didn't pitch in the majors in 2020. And so he's already at 120 innings. So like I do worry down the stretch how effective Bailey Ober will be as he goes into uncharted workload territory. And then you throw the home run and the fly ball propensity on top of that. This is one of the guys where like, yes, the whiffs have been there, but of like anyone on this list, I'm probably one of the lower ones on for those reasons.
Don't blame me one bit. I've been kind of out on him for quite a while. He's way too much, but a lot of Javier Assad going on there. But
not that bad.
I had to throw it out there.
There's some respect on the name there.
Let's talk Tarik Skubal. He's a name that everybody's like all excited because he's coming back from the IL, and it's great. Debuted on July 4th off the IL, so he fits perfectly into this conversation. So since July 4th, I'll say 4.18 ERA, 23.1% K to walk, 13.3% swinging strike. I will say he's had 2.9 xFIP, so some might say he's unlucky. He's only allowed one home run. That came in his last start at Boston. I believe that was off of Tristan Cassis, too, if I remember correctly, because Cassis has been hitting lefties deep lately.
3-run homer. Yep, I remember that.
Yep. So you get 4 runs in that start. He had 4 runs against Miami, 7 runs against Kansas City. All road starts, by the way. His 4 home starts, he's allowed 0 runs, earned runs. Can throw that one out there right now looking at this game log. But strikeouts been good. He's shown signs of being this guy everyone's been waiting for. And I mentioned the 3 road starts, little rocky there with Skubal. So what's your thoughts on this? It's a super small sample, not just because it's from July 1st on, but that's all we've seen from him this year.
This is where I struggle with like watching games because I watched, I think it was like a midday Wednesday. It was like a Wednesday morning against your Giants. The Giants were like just stopped by.
Oh, he was just dominating
Detroit. Them. Yeah. And like, I have not seen a pitcher dominate like that this season. Like Tarik Skubal looked like Spencer Strider. And like there was context around that, like the Giants, I think it was just like a 1-game makeup and they were flying back to the West Coast.
Monday day game from a rain out makeup day. It was the worst. They were going from the Mets to Detroit to coming home. It was and they were already on the road for like 7+ days. It was stupid.
Yeah. It was like the ultimate like trap spot.
We don't want to be here. We do not want to be here.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know. This is, I mean, not really answering your question, but like now when I think of Tarik Skubal, I think of how good he was in that like 1 game. And I mean, he's been solid, but that 1 game was just like that. I think that's carrying up his stats quite a bit. Like that Boston start only had 8 whiffs on 94 pitches, only struck out 3, walked 2. There's going to be, I mean, given the injury history, there's going to be some bumps, but I think overall just Skubal, like, and I don't think, like, yes, Detroit has nothing to play for, but I don't think Skubal is at any risk of being shut down. I mean, they're going to build him up and build up strength for 2024. So from that aspect, he's good. I would say just kind of look at the schedule. I think in 15s, he's obviously a start. In 12-teamers, you're probably starting him unless it's a really bad matchup. But I don't know. Things look pretty good, especially when I watch the guy. So.
Yep. No, he was pretty darn impressive. The Giants will do that to people. Lance Lynn, he's our guy, so we got to talk about him. It's kind of par for the course here. 4.54 ERA, but a 21.4% K to walk. Kind of lower than I expected, honestly, for Lance, but a 15.4% swinging strike because he's a beast like that. He does have 13 walks, so that could be part of the problem with the K to walk. But in the month of July, he had 2 bad outings in a row, Cubs and at Minnesota. Other than that, been pretty decent, like usual Lance Lynn stuff. Since coming to the Dodgers, he's thrown 18 innings and 3 starts, allowed 4 earned runs, and struck out 22. Over that, he's looked like a brand new man in LA. He's actually on the mound tonight against Milwaukee as we record. So what's your thoughts here on Lance Lynn? He looks like, again, the pitch mix change. It always makes me laugh. We see all these pitchers change teams. They change up their pitch mix. They dominate. And then this makes you go, why? Just why?
Yeah, I mean, that's what and I should probably check. Like, how is our man doing tonight?
I'll check
before the Dodgers won 1-0. So
yeah, well, he went 7 shutout with only 3 Ks though.
That's a weird line.
Yeah, 4 hits, 1 walk, 3 Ks. That is not a Lance Lynn line.
No, that's not a Lance Lynn line. That's the anti-Lance Lynn line this season. Yeah. Usually it's 5 earned with like 9 strikeouts. It's pretty obvious what the Dodgers want Lance Lynn to do. I mean, the 4-seam usage has shot through the roof, and he's basically not throwing his cutter anymore and also throwing more curveballs. And so, like, I don't know. We talked about this on the trade deadline episode. It's like you don't want to blindly appeal to the Dodgers. They've had their duds. Noah Syndergaard, Michael Grove, like, hasn't been all great, but they also have their Tyler Andersons, their years of like elite Julio Urias and Kershaw and that sort of thing. So, like, yes, they saw something in Lance Lynn. They've tinkered with it. I think Lance Lynn is going to be pretty good over the last, 5-6 weeks, 6-7 weeks, whatever we have.
Pretty good. Before we go to listener questions, I'll let you have the floor here. Is there anybody else you'd like to discuss? We've hit probably 75% of the list, but there's a few guys we've talked about in the past that we could bring up again if you like.
So I'll bring up, and this is maybe a fault of the board, the guys who have like just super elite skills don't really like pop. But I do want to. So Spencer Strider obviously really pops here. 30% strikeout minus walk and 20% swing strike. Like that's just totally absurd. But that's also what we've come to expect from Spencer Strider. So whatever. I'll be interested to see where he goes on Tuesday's draft. 2 guys where I'm like, whoa, is Tyler Glasnow. Like, Good Lord. 2.03 ERA since July 1st. 27% strikeout minus walk, 18% whiff rate. Like, that's, if we could ever get 150, 160 innings out of Tyler Glasnow, this guy's a 2nd-round pitcher, I think. He's just so good. Will we ever get to that 150, 160, especially with the Rays, man? Like, with everything going badly with every starting pitcher that they have right now, just can't trust it. But I did want to shout out just how great Tyler Glasnow has been. And the other one, I did mention this a little bit earlier when we were talking about NL Central, was Freddie Peralta. Did not realize he was like this good lately. 29% strikeout minus walk, 18.5 whiff rate. Anyone who not held on to Freddie Peralta, but like he's delivering a very good profit. And it's nice to see this in the second half of the season. So starting to look forward to 2024. This is kind of the Zach Gallen example from last year. I always say, if you finish well, finish strong, like that means you're healthy by the end of the year, which means you're going to be healthy most likely by the start of next season. Freddie Peralta will be probably shooting up my 2024 rankings. He's been really good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the Burns, Woodruff, Peralta draft spots go, because I think everybody is in their mind they have Peralta 3rd in that list. I don't know if he deserves to be 3rd on that list.
He always gets mentioned 3rd. And I'm kind of thinking, like, what should that order be with the Brewers pitchers?
Because Burns hasn't even been that dominant. Like, right now, Peralta's their best pitcher in my mind. That's the crazy part.
Would you take, like, I don't know if we could take Woodruff before these guys. It's just
Woodruff's
injuries, but like
Woodruff's between the injuries, and he's another one. Like, if we knew he'd be healthy for 160 innings, you'd probably put Woodruff because he's just like the safest pick of it all.
Would you take Peralta or Burns? Who would you take?
I see. You said it because I was
Tuesday.
going. I'd probably take Peralta, honestly. The fallback we saw with Burns this year, does leave me actually concerned with what he's got going on. But that could just be me being foolish, and we'll see.
I don't have an answer. I really don't. It'll be.
I'm glad you asked it, because I was sitting there thinking it in my head. I'm like, should I rock this boat right out the gate? Yeah, I was like, should I rock this boat or not? But yeah, I think that's why when I said 1 through 3, I'd probably have it Peralta, Burns, Woodruff. But if you told me I get 160 healthy innings from Woodruff, I'd probably have Burns third on that list.
If I had 160 innings of Peralta, I'd take Peralta.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Well, yeah, you'd say you take him in anyway. How many innings has he thrown? Like,
I got you right here. I just had his page up.
78 last year, 144 in 2021. He's never thrown 150. Like,
last year he had that injury for a while. This year he had an injury for a bit, but he's come back actually looking great. Like,
and it's all shoulders though. Like 2019 shoulder, 21 shoulder, 22 shoulder. But then, like, I know I'm spinning myself in circles here. We just talked about Pablo Lopez, who's on this board, shoulder, and now look at where he's at. So, like, I don't know.
As long as they don't have to cut on it, it's not. It's never good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not getting cut on, so that's at least some positive behind it all, I guess. We'll see.
That's why they pay us the big bucks to talk about this stuff and figure it out for you all.
Yeah, so it'll be a fun conversation for sure. Because if he's at 128 right now, he probably makes, say, 5 more starts. Say he averages 6 innings a start. He'll get to close to 160 by the time the postseason comes around. Makes a couple postseason starts. We're talking 170 maybe for Peralta. He's a full go next season at that point.
That's the thing. I mean, that's basically what I was just saying. Like, if he does finish strong in a 170 inning season, if you count postseason, like, how much should we take that previous injury history into account? Like, this dude is obviously pitching well and healthy and finished strong to 2023. So
now I gotta do my due diligence since I mouthed off. Let me look at Corbin Burns here for a minute. And I know
he has not been that good.
But still the ratios are better than Peralta's, but not for, like, if you just look at the second half numbers, not so much. But he threw 7 shutout tonight with 9 Ks against the Dodgers. Like, that's pretty damn impressive, all things considered. So yeah, that's a kind of, like, but before that, 5 Ks, like 5 runs against the White Sox of all teams. Yeah, that's baseball in 2023 in a nutshell. But yeah, fun board, fun kind of. I do my best not to, like, look into 2024, but we're at that point where it kind of all weaves together now, where things are going on. Like, I tweeted out, J-Rod's making everyone forget about the slump and reminding people why he's a first round pick, or at least a second round pick. His run over the last, like, week or two is ridiculous. He's back to being J-Rod. And it kind of goes back to what you said about, it might have been Peralta or someone else, Kirby, I think it was, or no, Gilbert, it was Logan Gilbert, that if you're playing Roto, some of these guys just don't worry about the slumps. It's the end season numbers. Like, some of your elite guys, just remember that. Like, it's hard because when they're slumping, like, you want to sit them or you want to do this, that, and the other. I get it. There's certain dudes you just got to be like, hey, we know who they are. They're going to show up. Now, that's obviously not every guy, but there's your first X amount of round picks on paper should probably be those kind of guys.
And I think especially with hitters, I think almost across the board, like, just roll with them. There are pitchers, like, if velocity's down, like, you can kind of look and see, and I don't know, but, like, I don't know. Yeah, just ride the stuff.
Tim Anderson proved us wrong this year. He's the one that never came around.
That's true.
But for every Tim Anderson, there's been like 12 guys where, or you're just like, okay, we're cool, we're good.
Yeah,
like,
Michael Harris. Remember? Yeah. Do we cut Michael Harris?
Bingo. That one. We got a fun one coming up here. A cut question that I'm looking forward to. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Just sometimes it's the old joke: trust the back of the baseball card with these players and see what happens. All right, let's talk listener questions here. We got a handful, which is awesome to see. So thank you all. Taylor Bauer 11 says, Joe Ryan or Giolito in Dynasty?
Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan for me.
I'm always a Giolito guy.
You are?
Oh, I'm a hardcore. I love Giolito.
I'm thinking hard on this one. Joe Ryan's really freaking good, man.
I know.
That's
hurt, right. But he's hurt. The home run thing concerned me with him. He's been the Joy Luck Club there, but he's younger too. So, like, if you're talking Dynasty, it's probably Joe Ryan. I can at least be honest there. I love Giolito though. And he's going to be a Dodger next year, so enjoy that one. Rand Simon asks, Joe Ryan and Ober sunk my AL only team. Too bad we don't have swinging strike percentages category. And Ober may have had the easiest schedule of any AL pitcher over the last month. Now that he's about to face good teams, would you dare start him? He kind of hit on that at one point.
Kind of hit on that. Didn't hit on the schedule, though, and that's a good point. And probably something at this stage of the game we need to be looking at with a few weeks left. I don't know. It's in a tough matchup. I'm benching Ober mostly everywhere.
Dave Funnel, Sports Nuts, who has an awesome injury report every day on Fantrax. One of my first things I read every morning. Which of these players do you think will continue this trend in 2024? I think you've pledged your love to somebody already.
Pledge my love to a lot of these guys, but I would say George Kirby.
That's who I was referring to. Yes, yeah. That's your guy. I'll go with Peralta. I think we both like Peralta as well, but there's a handful of these guys, like you said, if they can finish the season strong, like Glasnow. Yeah, but do you ever trust? That's my problem.
No, yeah. I mean, on a per inning, Glasnow's like
elite.
He's there, but no.
He's Strider-esque, like you said, but yeah, it's tough for sure. He also said who was on this list in the first half of the season that's not on it now. I don't have that list. So
I do. I pulled it up. Just switch some dates around. It's actually interesting. A lot of these guys, it's the same group. Luis Castillo, we didn't talk about, but he's on the. So I just looked at the first 2 months of the season through June 1st. Luis Castillo, Kevin Gossman, he was also on our recent list. Spencer Strider, Joe Ryan. Zach Wheeler, who I don't think showed up on our list.
He did not. No.
I have been a big Zach Wheeler. I think Zach Wheeler is like quiet. I think I mentioned this on the show.
He's still pitching well this second.
Yeah, I think he's really good, and he hasn't shown it. Hunter Green is one. Hunter Green, the first 2 months of the season, 24% strikeout minus walk, 15% whiff rate. Pablo Lopez, Bubba's boy, was on this list the first 2 months of the season. Chris Sale, I thought was interesting before injury. And then last but not least, bottom of the list, which means highest ERA, Nick Lodolo, 6.29 ERA, but beneath that 6.29 ERA, 22% K minus walk and a 14% swinging strike. Really good stuff. That bodes well for Lodolo when he returns.
So I looked up Wheeler just for fun. Since July 1st, 3.20 ERA, 23.5% K to walk. His issue was at 11.3% swinging strike. So he's still been very good. This is what I wanted to bring up there. BPVE says 13% question mark. If you mentioned earlier, I apologize. What was the 13% cutoff for the swinging strike?
Oh, so it's I picked that number. So some of these numbers I just picked them. They're arbitrary, but I just like to get a number that is better than average. So your league average swinging strike for a starting pitcher, usually right around like 11%. So I wanted to go 13 just to get something. But I also want like these lists. I kind of massage those numbers to get a list of like 15 to 20. I think that's kind of the sweet spot. I don't want to throw a list of like 40 pitchers because this could be a 2-hour podcast and it's really hard to read. You also don't want a list of like 4 guys. So I try and kind of make it so that the filters are, hard to reach, but that we also get like a good mix of guys to talk about. So that's where that 13 number came from. And same with the 20% on the K minus walk.
Perfect. Gaman8 has a question for us. Where do you rank? This is the fun one because I've had this question a lot this week between Twitter and the Discord. A lot of questions on this one. Where do you rank Sean Murphy in a 1-catcher league? Still a must-hold in 12-teamers. Sean Murphy is strictly in an every other day platoon with Travis d'Arnaud right now. So he plays either 3 or 4 days a week right now. And he has not been good since this platoon caught back in. Like he's hitting below, I believe.
Yeah, you're right.
It's bad. And so
I did not realize that.
I've legit told people that at this stage of the season, in a 1-catcher 12-team league, like people said Kyber Ruiz or others, I'm like, you could drop Sean Murphy. Honestly, you could.
Wow.
Especially in a head-to-head where you could accumulate. Yeah.
2 months ago.
He was playing every day. Sean Murphy, it feels like he's one of those guys that needs to play every day. Like the every other day thing just does not let him get in a rhythm at all.
196 batting average last month.
It's brutal. And
I did not know that.
It's a strict every other day him and Travis d'Arnaud right now. It's wild. So I would say, yes, you can drop him. I will go out there and say it. And this brings me back to earlier in the season when Travis was healthy. People were asking the same question because Murphy was playing just like this. And then Travis got hurt. Murphy caught fire. And everyone was like, you guys are crazy to drop blah, blah, blah. I'm like, in reality, here we are again. So I'm cool with it if people want to. All right. And I'm the catcher whisperer, so you're cool in my book.
Yeah, I mean, I defer to the catcher master there.
Corbin Young, our buddy, has a question for us. Spencer Strider, the unicorn. Yep. Lance frickin' Lynn, baby. Also, please stop playing well in WRF and let middling peeps catch up. Thanks. So that was to you. Are you winning WRF?
I'm winning WRF. I'm third overall in Earth. So I'm trying to go for the overall.
Well done. Good on you.
That was the draft that was St. Patty's night.
That's right.
And just went for it, man. So maybe
from now on we get a little boozed up and draft up.
Just get blitzed
hey, that's how I say if you study for a test drunk, you take the test drunk. Maybe we're finding something here, Bloomfield.
Maybe that Tuesday 2024 draft will be fireworks.
Oh, okay. It's going to be fireworks one way or another. I guarantee you that. Michael Carlson, he's the one that mentioned 4 twins on the list. So that's okay. Very, very intriguing. And then the last question we have here is from your buddy, Oregon Ducks too. I've got Glasnow, Peralta, and Ryan, and just traded Castillo in a keeper league where I can't keep him in 2024. Doing great in pitching. My offense is snake bitten with Trout, Ward, Rendon. Well, you drafted all Angels. It makes sense with your team logo there. Starling Marte, Josh Naylor, Donovan, and Garrett Mitchell were all in my opening day lineup. He has $138 on the IL. So, yeah. That's why I said earlier, hitting or pitching, I'm great in one or the other. The other side sucks right now.
So, yeah, no question in that tweet. It was just venting. It sounds like.
I know. I always say questions.
It feels good.
I don't read any of these. I just take pictures and roll, and then I read them.
I was waiting for the actual question.
Yeah, so was I. I don't know. It was
whatever. But
you can vent here. This is a friendly.
That is some brutal. Space. That is some brutal injury luck. I would say.
I guess don't be a homer next year. Don't draft your Angels. That'd be a starting point. Don't draft your Angels and don't draft Rays starting pitchers.
Unless you're like a Dodgers homer or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. All right, that'll wrap us up there, Bloom. Any final thoughts as we're through another week of the season, about 5-6 weeks to go?
Just on tilt, man. I'm on tilt. So these last 6 weeks and in some league races, you are too. Also got the golfs. No one cares about this.
Yeah, you got some money up for grabs.
Got some big time money on the line in a season long golf pool that we're in that wraps up this weekend. So if anyone's still listening and wants to root on Max Homa, let's do that. Let's get a win for my man.
He is the man. So we're pulling for Homa this week, folks, because Ryan's going to need it to pay for my round of golf in Arizona. So let's make that one happen. Make sure you check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I'm at BDentric. Thanks for tolerating my voice tonight. This was Bubba and the Bloom, episode 70. Catch you all next time.